This is ODAAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi friend, welcome to another episode of the ODAAT Chat podcast. I'm so happy to be hanging out with you today. And in case you're new here, my name is Arlina and I'll be your host. Today I'm releasing a step work call. It's with Laura and we're diving into the most transformational step, which is step 4. So excited. But before we jump in, I'm really excited to share a resource to solve a problem so many of us in recovery have, which is weight gain and emotional eating. Super fun. My husband and I are hosting a webinar, The 3 Secrets to Quickly Lose Stubborn Body Fat for Busy Professionals Over 40. And this is all without starving or exercising, even if you've never been able to lose weight before. It's a highly personalized coaching program, so we can only take about 10 clients at a time. Once those spots are filled, we won't open up the program again for another 3 months. If you're ready to lose weight and stop emotional eating, visit metabolicfoodsystem.com. So today's call is with Laura, and this is going to be a part 1, since the 4th step is actually very time consuming and typically there's a lot to go over. It's going to take more than just one session. So in any case, this is the step that has had the biggest impact on me early in recovery. I showed up to the program completely self-centered, but incapable of self-examination. This was the first time I had a process for unraveling the mess that was my life. So I could finally see my part in the most challenging relationships, and that's when I actually started to change. So my hope is that if you haven't taken the steps yet, as you witness someone else go through the process, you will be inspired to do the work for yourself. So with that, I hope this helps and you enjoyed this episode with Laura. All right. Well, Laura, welcome to the ODAAT Chat podcast. We're doing step work calls.
Hi, Arlina. Good to be back.
Yes, so happy to have you back. And today we're doing step 4. So super excited about that. You're the first one to make it to step 4.
I think I've been doing step 4 for a couple of years now. This is always the point where I stop. And
really?
I think this is and I think this is the longest period that you and I have gone between, like for a long time, I thought I have to schedule this. And it's just something that was easy for me to put off. It's really overwhelming to think about. I mean, I think it's more overwhelming to think about it than to just do it. I feel like I've been working on it for this is my 3rd summer that I've actually done the steps, but I've never made it through step 4. So I'm super excited.
Awesome. Progress. Yay.
I know. I'm really, really been excited for this day. So
yeah, this will be really good. This is actually where all the magic happens. So good for you. Before we jump into it, I feel like we should say a little prayer and get centered and invite God in so that he can work his magic.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm just going to take a little cleansing breath. It's been a morning.
Oh.
Okay. Dear Father, thank you so much for my dear friend Laura. And I'm so grateful that we get to spend this time together. And I just want to invite you in to do your magic so that we might be open-minded, honest, and willing. That we might just allow whatever needs to come up to be revealed. And that everyone that is listening is also blessed by Laura's courage and willingness to be so transparent about this process. So thank you very much. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Okay, so what we'll do is I'm going to have you read your inventory. So this is the hard part in the sense that you will be tempted to explain everything, right? You're going to want to give me the backstory. You're going to want to give me the reasons why, and what's important is about this process is to get specific about the cause of the resentment, and then get really clear on how it affected you, and then review like what your part is. Everything is cause and effect. So it's important to understand like what your part is in it. And listen, if you need to give me some color, that's fine. But I'm just going to encourage you to just try to read what you wrote.
Okay.
So
that sounds good. So I first started this step a few years back. Like I told you, this is feels like the third year I've been on this step. I think when I very first started the steps and got to step 4, it's funny. And this was like 2 summers ago, where I actually thought, I don't have any resentments. I'm cool with everybody. Isn't that crazy that I actually believe that?
So I'm going to go ahead and say that could be true because you were so good at being disconnected. Like we are masters of disassociation.
Yeah.
So of course you weren't resentful. You were completely disassociated.
So, and this was a huge revelation in our last talk. It was a huge revelation that I disconnect when I am not happy with the way a relationship is going. I completely disconnect.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and I will no longer give that person my time. Mm-hmm. So when I actually looked at step 4 and I wrote down every person who I'm actually resentful for, because surprise, surprise, I wasn't perfect and, processing all that. And I do have resentments. I don't know why it took me this long to discover that. But anyways, I just thought that was funny. I can't believe that actually, I really thought I had no resentments. But it's funny because as I wrote out this list, and I'll read through everyone like you told me to do, but every single person pretty much on my list, my resentment has to do with the time that they're spending with me and affecting my emotional security. And I thought that was a really big connection.
Oh, so it was like a pattern that you discovered?
A total pattern, not only with who I'm resentful to, but that's also my behavior because I withdraw and I disconnect. So it's all connected. It's all very strange. So anyways, so the first person on my list is my mom, and she's no longer with us. But my resentment to her is that, she worked very hard and she was too busy to spend time with me and my family. We always thought after she'd retired, she would move in with us and we'd have a lot of time, and, it never happened. So until some resentment to her, and I felt like that affects my emotional security. And then my part, I could have gone to her house more and I didn't. I could have given my time more and I didn't. So I can definitely see my part in this and those feelings. So that was the first one that I did. Do you want me to just keep going down the list?
Well, so what I'm going to try to do is make little tick marks for the character defects part, meaning I was always taught to use the 7 deadly sins, right? So I'm gonna have to write it down. Let's see, what is it? Pride, jealousy, envy, anger, lust, gluttony, pride, jealousy, envy, greed, lust. What am I forgetting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always miss one. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is put little tick marks by these, so to help you sort of identify a pattern. So would you say that one was, you felt angry? You were angry towards her, because she didn't come to you, she wouldn't spend time with you. So you probably withdrew from her, and that's probably maybe a little bit of pride.
Yeah, I think so. And it just always felt like she had time for everybody else but me,
All right. So that was jealousy.
And then not with my other sisters or anything, but with her friends and her work and her, she had her own life and she was very busy, and that's great. But yeah, I feel like there was a lot of lost time, and now, and it was just always assumed that we would have that time later, and it was never, never happened.
Yeah, there's no such thing as later.
No, there's not.
Let's see. I just had to look up the 7 deadly sins real quick. Pride. Oh, greed. Missed greed. Isn't that gluttony?
That's a big one too.
Oh no, greed and gluttony are different.
Gluttony is like, I think, I don't know. It is like the same thing, because gluttony is like just wanting and acquiring too much, wanting everything. But that's greed. I'm weird. Maybe gluttony isn't one of them.
Well, let me look up greed. So greed is inordinate or insatiable longing for material gain or food.
So you just keep wanting and wanting.
Yeah. So like I would say I was very, gluttonous. Let's see what gluttonous is. To gulp down or swallow means overindulgent. So consumption of food or drink or wealth items. So obviously,
okay.
So gluttony and greed are very similar. All right. Well, it's almost like jealousy and envy. Those are both very similar.
Yeah, very similar.
So gluttony and greed are also very similar. I'm just going to put them in the same category, jealousy and envy. And I'm probably going to get scolded for this. I think envy is more like wanting what somebody else has. Let's see. Envy. It's an emotion which occurs when a person lacks another's superior quality. And this says jealousy is pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Oh, sloth. Do we put sloth on there? Oh, no. We didn't. Okay, so let's call it, I guess greed and gluttony is the same thing then, because sloth is a thing. You would think this was the first time I'm doing this. Sloth, it's like being lazy, like not willing to take action.
Okay.
And,
that's nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a sloth. Okay. Makes sense.
All right. But so for this case with your mom, so it sounds like there's a little bit of pride. You know, you chose not to visit her because she didn't come visit you, maybe type of thing.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then jealousy, it's like,
kind of that thought, like, kind of like that thought, like, well, I'm really busy too. Why doesn't she come here? She doesn't have kids. She doesn't have little kids to drag her. You know what I mean? Like all those thoughts, which is not rational and not cool, but I didn't know back then.
I mean, I don't know that that's unrational. I mean, if we're talking logistics and, what's the word I'm looking for?
She lived like 15 minutes away though. Like I should have visited her more. You know what I mean? Like,
obviously you're,
I think I was very mistaken, but live and learn.
Lesson learned. Yeah. Maybe pride was preventing you from going over there.
Okay, I think so.
That's a good one. But I don't see greed or gluttony in that at all. Okay. That's really good that you see your part in that. All right. What else?
Okay. So my dad is on here too.
That's it for mom?
That's it for mom. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I don't have a lot for each of these. For each of the people I put on my list, I only put like 1 or 2 things.
This is your first inventory?
Well, this is like my third, because I started 2 summers ago and then I did it again last summer, but I never followed through with like reading it with a sponsor. I mean, I've been working on this for a couple of years now.
Yeah. No, typically mom and dad there's like 50 things for mom and dad. It's like when I was growing up, like I was growing up, she embarrassed me in front of my friends, or this one time she, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're probably going to do this in 2 parts anyway. So maybe just keep that in the back of your mind.
And maybe I just focused on the big things, not all the little nitpicky stuff. I'm sure there's things else that she kind of bothered me, but I don't feel like it's anything that I carry with me today.
Okay. Well, let's not borrow problems, as they say.
Okay.
Okay. So dad.
I put my dad on here, and my biggest resentment towards my dad is that I feel like when I was growing up and as a kid, he always chose his friends over the family and over me. So on the weekends and even during the week, he would always go play on his baseball team, and then he'd go out to the bar. He was always with his friends, and that was the family. And I don't even think it bothered me until I got married and years went by and I saw how my husband was with my kids. And I just, there were many times that I often thought, if I had a dad like that, I wonder how different I would be. You know, I wonder if I would be a different person because he just wasn't involved. And I think he did the best that he could do. I'm not like actively angry towards him because of this, but I think it is a large resentment that I felt for even now. We'll have a party at the beach or something, and he'll like bring one of his friends, and it'll kind of bother me. Like, why can't, you know what I mean? Like, it just,
Yeah. Why can't you be fully present with us?
Yeah. So that's my biggest resentment with him. I think it affects my emotional security, I felt like. And then my part in it, you know, I could plan something with him to have one-on-one time. He would be totally open to that. You know, I can see that I'm not doing my part. I'm not reaching out to him as much as I should. I'm not, you know, in the beginning of the summer, I forget what day it was. It was a special day, somebody's birthday. I think maybe his dad's birthday who had passed. So it was kind of a rough day for him. And I said, hey, Dad, you want to meet for lunch? And we totally met for lunch, and it was great. So maybe more spontaneous invites like that and stuff like that. It can be my part in help making this better. But that was all I had for my dad.
So, okay. So both of these are almost the same. And I would add to the effect is that probably affected your self-esteem. You know, it's like,
okay. Yeah, I think so. Yes. And yeah, I can see that.
Self-esteem on both of those because, you know, it's like, you know,
why am I not good enough?
Not good enough. Yeah. That's the message. Yeah. And even in both of these scenarios, so, you know, when we talk about getting specific about the cause of the resentment, I'm sure there were situations or scenarios where you're like, Mom, can you come with me to this thing? And she's like, no, I'm working.
Yeah. Yep.
That's like a tick mark. It's like, oh, she's saying that something else is a higher priority than me. And that happens over and over and over and over. Right. So so I would imagine that there might have been scenarios where, you know, from your part, you know, asking for what you need. And, you know, it's like, did you tell her how much it hurts your feelings, or did you you were probably not aware because, you know, growing up when you're a kid, you don't have that kind of language to be like, hey, that really hurts my feelings. This is really affecting my self-esteem. You're my parent. You're supposed to be the one who puts me if anyone's going to make me a priority, it should be you. I mean, we don't have that kind of language when we're kids.
And that would be awesome. That would be an awesome skill to have as a teenager or even as a young adult, because I feel like in my 20s, I would get ticked off. I wouldn't have the know withal to say my words. I would just get pissed. I'd get ticked.
Of course.
You know? Yeah.
And really, anger is really a secondary emotion. You know, really it's hurt. Anger is easier to feel than pain, right?
I think,
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to say that there's probably a lot of anger there. Let's see. Pride. I don't know. I don't know about that, other than, you know, pride is what keeps us from, you know, reaching back out or continuing to make an effort, I think.
Okay. So that maybe could apply because, you know, in some cases I would shut down and just shut them out.
Yeah. And that's actually a really reasonable response, right? It's like you put your hand on the stove once or twice, you stop doing that. Right. So we learn to withdraw from things that cause us pain. I think that's fair. Right. I just think it's sad that, you know, most people are not taught to share their feelings. You know, like it's a natural instinct that when we're in pain or we're vulnerable, that we shut down, but that we stuff it. But it takes... You are speaking my language, because what I'm finding out going through recovery things is that a lot of adults don't have coping skills. They can't process things. They have no coping skills. And you know what is even sadder to me, working at an elementary school, so many kids don't have coping skills. So one of the things that I want to do is try to incorporate, like, even like
like, I'm not going to call it the 12 steps or anything, but if we can incorporate some of the step work into the school, like even as an curricular thing, I feel like there could be so much power and benefit to that. Like that's where my mind is kind of headed, because I see all these kiddos with no coping skills. And I think that's what my problem was, you know, because when you start to go into recovery, you start talking to people, and a lot of the people that I talked to had horrible childhoods where they were sexually abused or, you know, these traumatic childhoods. And I'm thinking, okay, my parents weren't perfect, but they did the best they could. I had a fine childhood. What the hell is wrong with me? Why am I like this? I wasn't abused, you know? And it's like, no, that's not always the case. You know, it comes down to basic like coping skills and feelings and thoughts and being aware. We're so not aware today. We're so not aware of our mind, and that it's crazy. Anyway, sorry. I feel very passionate about it and the impact that it's having on our society in adults and children. It's insane.
Yeah, no, it really is. And, you know, and what you're feeling is a very common experience when our eyes are opened. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the suffering we could have avoided, right? And for our own lives. But then all of a sudden you start looking around and you're like, oh my God, everybody needs this.
Yes, right? Everybody does. It's insane, especially kids.
Especially kids, yeah.
And it's not the parents don't know it, you know, no, it's just crazy.
Yeah. And we'll definitely have to talk more about, you know, because one of the things about getting sober, it's like, okay, you're sober, now what? You know, and service is a big part of recovery. So, but let's put a pin in that one for now, because you know, I'm with you on that one. And we'll definitely talk to that. But it's interesting. So now that you have this experience of, I want everybody else to get this, it's like, that's why everybody's been telling me to do the steps.
Exactly. Yes. And if you remember, I asked you one of the calls, I said, what does this have to do with sobriety? What does it have to do with my
last
drinking?
one?
I get it. I get it now. It's all coming together. Which is wonderful.
Yeah, we got to sort this shit out. Okay, so this is really good. Okay, so yes, you did not have coping skills. It would have been magical and transformative if you would have had the language to be able to say, the thing is like, we need to be able to, people don't want to share their feelings. They don't want to share their feelings, but there is value in just saying, like, without the expectation that somebody else is going to do something, right? It's being open to outcomes, not attached to them. Buddhists are really good about non-attachment. That's definitely something I think everybody needs to work on. But the point is to say what you need to say without expectation that anybody's going to do anything in response to it.
That's a good viewpoint. Yeah. I like that.
And then I might even go a couple steps further to say, we need to allow and expect that the other person is going to have a feeling about what we say, right? They're going to have a feeling about it. Yeah. And we can't get mad about it. It's like, I could see how you'd feel that way. However, I still feel this way. You know, you don't want to go back and forth like that. But that's kind of the thing, is that we don't want to say anything, and God forbid they have a feeling about what we say. So
for sure. And I remember being at an AA meeting not too long ago and having somebody talk about going through these with her sister, who was on her 4th step list. And her sister was a recovering alcoholic also, but not working on the steps. And she had gone through with her sister, her resentments, and her sister was like, just shot right back at her. Well, you did this and you did this and you did this. And her point at this meeting was, I just had to wrap it up and move on from that. You know, like, people are not always going to have the best reaction. Like, oh, that's okay. You know, we're all good. You know what I mean? Like, you can talk about this stuff with people, but they're not always going to have the reaction that you're looking for.
Yeah. So, and that is really interesting. I would love to hear, what her inventory was about. I mean, this is why we work with a sponsor, right? Because typically when you go to somebody and you say, you know, they were on your resentment list, you know, like you'd go to your mom and you'd say, Mom, I need to make amends to you. make amends and tell you that, there were times I wanted to spend more time with you, and I don't know why, but I didn't reach out to you. I should have done that. And I'm really sorry that I didn't do that. That's an amends. So what it sounds like
so
happens.
It's like non-confrontational, right?
The
is
only
what you're saying.
part of the point to going to somebody is to say, when you do an inventory, like if we're talking about an amends, like step 9, an amends is when you go to somebody and own your part. There's nothing to argue about when you own your part. But what people do sometimes is they go to your sister and say, I was really hurt when you did this. And so, but I could have done this better. So I'm sorry about that. And so all she's going to hear is, I hurt your feelings. Like I did something wrong. Fuck you. This is what you did to me, So,
and that's how it sounds. The conversation went. So maybe some other wording might have been a little bit more effective. I can see that.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not saying you couldn't go to your mom and go, Mom, I'm really sad that we don't get to spend this time together. I'm really sad that you're working so much. Can we spend some time together? You know what I mean? Or it's like your mom said, hey Mom, can you come with me to the kids' school event? It would really mean a lot to me. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Laura. I'm too busy. It's like,
right.
It's like, oh, I'm really sad. This is really important. It would have been, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I feel really sad, but then it's over. Cause you tell your mom, I'm sad. You're not saying that you have to come to the thing, but we don't have that.
I don't know, Arlina, I don't know how that would work with my dad, because Dad, I feel kind of resentful because you always spend more time with friends than me. You know what I mean? Like that's a hard one.
Well, you wouldn't say that.
Will we talk about that when we get to that step then? Like, do we just not even talk about it right now?
Well, we can, well, I mean, what I would say to you is the same thing, like, what you would have said to your mom. It's like, you could ask your dad for and listen, they always have the option to say no. Like you could ask your Dad, I would really love it if you could come to this event. And it would mean a lot to me if you did not bring a friend, because what I would really like is to have I would like you to be fully present and have 100% of your attention. Is that a possibility? It's not a demand, it's a request, right?
He'd probably like that, actually. He'd probably like to hear that, to be quite honest.
Okay. So you say that to Dad, and he comes to your house and he has somebody with him and he goes, oh God, Laura, he and I are going to go do this fishing thing or go play basketball after or whatever. So you'd be like, oh, I'm really disappointed, but I really am glad you're here. That's it. That's it. But when you go to your dad to clean up your part in this, the conversation is, Dad, over the years, I have really wanted more of your attention and your time. And I am sorry that I never asked you for that. And I think maybe I may have not treated you with, I think I probably pulled back from you because of that. And I'm sorry about that. That's an amends.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amends. That. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a little unclarity. I've never been past step 4. So I kind of know what they're about, but I'm still a little unclear. But that helps.
So that girl that talked about, she tried to do it and her sister got really pissed. Well, yeah, of course she did. She didn't do it right. That's not an apology. That's not an amends. I'm sorry you were such an asshole to me. Then I got mad about it. I mean, what is that? You're saying that shit to make yourself feel better. That's not an amends.
Okay. That's
this is
funny.
why sponsors are important.
Yes,
this is why we don't work steps alone. Steps do not work alone. They don't.
Yeah.
Somebody the other day was trying to tell me, oh, I've been trying to work the steps alone by myself. A highly educated woman, No, they don't work alone. This is why. Don't do that shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Maybe that's why I've been stuck on the 4th step for a couple of years.
Yeah, were you trying to do it by yourself?
Last 2 summers ago, I did it by myself. And then last summer I was working with a friend, but she wasn't really a sponsor. She was somebody who was doing the steps too. We found worksheets. We bounced ideas off each other. I think it was beneficial, but it wasn't like working with a sponsor. So no.
Yeah. Did it help you stay sober?
No, I mean, I never got through that fourth step, you know? So no. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to work through this summer and start, because that's, like I had told you before, I feel like that might be the missing puzzle piece. I've had sober stretches before, but they never last. And I think it's because I'm not working through this stuff.
Yeah. It's hard.
You know?
It's really hard to do, you know? And
it really is.
And so here's the other thing that we're battling, right? We're battling self-sufficiency. We're battling self-reliance. We think we have to do this ourselves alone. It's our job. We're so used to withdrawing, right? And disconnecting and isolating that we get into this mindset that we think we have to do it ourselves. And so in the big book, it talks about, you know, the idea of self-sufficiency has to be smashed. It's like, we do need each other. And in the end, the beautiful thing is, it's like you and I work together. I get off the phone with you and my heart is full. It's like, oh my God, it's so amazing to watch somebody who is willing to take action and transform. It's amazing. My heart is full when I get off the phone with you. And then when you get off the phone with me, hopefully you feel something similar. It's like, oh, I learned something new. And it's like you gain hope. And it's like, we're better together. That's the whole point.
For sure. Yep. And yeah, it's great. And I feel like that way too, after talking, you know, to somebody on the phone, like a willingness call, or if I go to a meeting, like usually more times than not, I feel that elevation. Yeah. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. We never want to do it. It's so funny. We resist it. We don't want to do it. And then we do it and we're like, oh, that's amazing.
Oh, I feel really good after that. I know it's unfortunate that pretty much everything that makes us feel so good is something that we like kind of dread, like working out, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Except drugs and alcohol. Well, this is
Except for what?
Yeah, drugs and alcohol. I mean, those are the quick, easy fixes, but there's a price tag.
Want a quick fix.
There is a price to pay for everything. So you go.
Oh, it is a huge price tag. One of my favorite sayings is that, you know, when you drink, you kind of borrow tomorrow's happiness. I feel that so much. I feel like that's so true, you know? Because if I'm really sad today and I drink to get, you know, you totally are borrowing tomorrow's happiness. No, thank you. I'll deal with my pain today now and get, you know, deal with it now, and then I don't have to deal with it later.
Yeah, we learn to pay the price up front is kind of how I see it now. It's way worth it. Anyway,
I think it sometimes is a lot cheaper of a price when we pay it up front rather than let it fester.
Absolutely. It's way cheaper.
All right. So, do you want me to move on down the list? That's Dad. Okay. So next one is hubby.
Okay.
I think my biggest resentments for him is, for one thing, he has this inability to quiet his mind and to relax. If somebody bugs him, if he, like for example, we've been at odds with new neighbors that we have, and the new neighbor yelled at him and cussed him out, like unwarrantedly. Like he wanted this dead tree to be cut down that's like halfway, like almost about to fall into our yard, and it's completely dead. And the neighbor said, this new neighbor, he went off, cussed them out, was walking in circles cussing, and then said, when I shit out $800, I'll take that damn tree down. And, you know, I don't know what was going on with him. You know, maybe he just found out his dad has cancer. I don't know. Maybe he just got horrible news. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's a complete lunatic. I don't know. But this happened months ago, and it still is causing my hubby anxiety. Like, he is like super anxious about the situation. So he has thoughts, and I feel like he has a lot of resentment in his mind, and it really affects him, and it affects his mood. And it's been way worse this past year, because he's had a lot of job stress. And, so that's something that I'm dealing with him. And then another issue, which is completely different.
Hold on.
But I wanted to put.
Hold on. Okay. Let's just do one at a time here. Okay. But let's break down what the specific cause of the resentment is towards hubby. Looks like you have one against the neighbor, so he's new on the list. Okay, so you're saying you're resentful at your husband because he has anxiety, and it affects him. And how does that relate to you?
Sometimes I feel like at home I have to tiptoe around him.
Okay, so you have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah, because, if he's, really moody or like,
he's moody. So does that mean he yells, like he snaps at you and he creates tension in the house? And
he's not one to yell. He's not a yeller, but it does create tension in the house.
Okay. So there's tension in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a thing that I would be resentful about that too. Okay. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's very hard. Okay. So how does him being in a bad mood affect you? So I would imagine, some self-esteem stuff, like,
I think both. Yeah, I think both self-esteem and also emotional security,
Sure.
like I haven't, like, normally my home is my safe spot. And when he's been on edge like this, it's not safe for me anymore. And it's, that's caused some issues this summer, and we're working through it. And it's, I think, going to be okay. But there was a bad time this summer where I wasn't sure what was going to happen.
What do you mean?
Well, there was a time where I felt like maybe we're not going to be together anymore. Maybe
you felt so distant from him that
I felt like, okay, so this summer I've been on kind of a spiritual journey, and I've been doing a lot of spiritual things, and consequently I've been getting really happy and peaceful, and it's been great.
Uh-huh.
So when I see him and his negativity and how that affects him, I know that other people can't make us happy. I know that. And I know that he can't make me happy. Only I can make me happy. But my question is, can he make me completely miserable? And if he can I live with that? And I just was questioning everything. And since then, we've had some really good conversations. He is willing to let me help him with his thoughts and his negativity. So he's open. And one of the last really good conversations we had is, I said, do you see that this is negatively impacting you and is a huge problem? And he's like, yeah, I see that this is a huge problem. So he knows that it's a problem, and he's willing to open up and change, but we'll see if he can actually do it. I don't know. I'm glad that he sees that there's a problem, though, because if he was like, no, it's not, there's no problem, it's everything else, I'm fine, then I would be really worried. But he is open to looking more into this. So
no, that's really good. Yeah. And everything, I would agree with everything that you said. But we are affected by other people's energy. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of spiritual bypassing to be like, oh, I should be able to maintain my peace no matter, what's going on with other people. What are you going to do? Disassociate more? We're trying to connect with our feelings, not deny them. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't think it's 100% reasonable to be living in a house where I think there is a degree of, codependency in a marriage, and because we are so closely connected, and when someone's energy is so negative, I mean, you've heard that expression, cutting the tension with a knife. Like you go to a comedy club and the room is electric, right? You walk into the room where people are arguing, you can walk into the room and you feel it. You're like, the hell is going on in here? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't think it's reasonable to say that you're going to be able to maintain your peace 100% if he is, just like on the verge of losing his shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So your feelings are valid is all.
Okay, glad.
Yeah. And I can see how this affects your self-esteem and your emotional security. Does it affect your financial security at all? Like, are you worried he's not going to be able to?
Yeah, it does. Especially when I think about, well, am I going to have to move out? It got so, there was a time in the summer that it was so sketchy that I was looking at houses in a nearby city, thinking, okay, am I going to have to be on my own? That type of thinking. And I don't think I've ever thought like that, not in any time in recent years. So it was a lot. but it has provoked some really good conversations with him. So I'm hopeful that things will improve. And I think they already have somewhat, they have somewhat. And he says things sometimes like, well, I would have done this if it weren't for you. Like you ground me. Like I don't know. It's kind of hard because now he's looking at me as he does. And I think he sees where I'm at and he's like, wow, I wish I could be more like that, like less uptight and more letting my feelings go. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, no. So just in the sense that you're affected by him, he is affected by you, right? He sees what you're doing. Like we teach by example.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So I think he sees that and and also when I was having that conversation with him not long ago, I said, when we go to your mom's house and she just complains about everyone for like an hour straight, and you know how that drains us and it's just so draining. I said, do you want to be like that? And he's like, no. Like he sees how you can be free and happy, and he sees how you can be so resentful and uptight and harboring all that stuff. So I hope he can let it go. I hope he can open up a little bit more, but yeah,
okay.
We'll see.
Look at that. We found another resentment. Mother-in-law.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's finish hubby's, negativity. So you're affected by his negativity. So your part in this, so I'm going to what do you think your part is?
Gosh, I wrote down something, but I don't care. My part is to keep helping him with his thoughts and to be an example, of how to live happily and freely. So just to keep giving him that support, and I'm kind of feeling like, well, geez, am I not giving him unconditional love? Like, you know what I mean? Like when you take your marriage vows, you say in sickness and in health. Well, is this a sickness? Am I like, I don't know.
Okay.
Am I not being there? And am I disassociating with him too much? But I don't know.
Yeah. What's coming up for me is, what I'm seeing because I've been there. So that's, some self-centered, I'm just going to say there's some self-centered fear going on. It's like he's having anxiety and it's affecting me. Mm-hmm. Right. It's like,
yeah,
it's like you do feel sorry for him to some extent, but you're like, can you just please get your shit together? Mm-hmm. Like this is affecting me. Yeah. And if you can't get your shit together, I'm going to leave. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I would imagine there's, some anger in that. Like, it's like, you're fucking ruining my day, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
sure.
You're ruining the day for the kids. You're ruining the day for mm-hmm. So there's probably some anger in there. Mm-hmm. And, the financial insecurity part comes from, future tripping. It's like, well, if you don't change, I might have to remove myself. So you're already, because your go-to is the disassociation, which means separating. It's like you're already looking for a way out. Like that's your coping skill. Okay. Does that make sense?
Is that a negative thing?
The disassociating?
Well,
what part?
No.
What part are
you coping with him in that way?
I don't like to think of things in terms of good or bad or right and wrong. I like to think of things in terms of cause and effect. Right?
I like that. Yeah.
It's not a moral. This is not a moral issue. It's like, it's okay. Just, I feel like shit. What am I going to do about it? Mm-hmm. Well, what was the cause? Yeah. What was the cause? Is it my thinking? Is it the cause of my thinking? Is it my self-centered thinking that I'm worried about me? Is it, I clearly can't control that person, so I'm just going to go. It's like, what is it's like, you do need to have peace in your home. Like your home is your sanctuary. And so
you are sort of responsible to some degree of manufacturing or setting up your environment so that you do have, I'm all about self-care and building self-esteem, and and that's something that we have to take responsibility for where we can, right? So but you are already having conversations with your husband. You're like, look at all these things I'm doing. If this is just cause and effect. If you take action, you get the result. That's all this is, right? And there's always like this mental resistance, but people are not always ready when we're ready. Like you got ready. It took you a while. It took you a while to get ready. And
a long time. Yeah.
A long time. And was he patient with you while you were going through?
Very much so. Through, especially, with losing my mom, he was the most patient human being I've ever been associated with.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's give him give him some of that patience and understanding that he so generously allotted to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying your natural it's like, oh, this is good information to have. It's like your coping skill is disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
That's your coping skill. Of course it's your coping skill. You had nothing else. Laura. What else were you supposed to do? Right? But it's a skill it's a survival skill that doesn't serve you anymore. So what are the other things that we can do? Well, you clearly already talked to him about it, right? And it sounds like you guys are already, moving towards solution. You were honest with him. You shared, this isn't working for me and I feel bad. And you know what I mean? It's like you shared how his behavior is affecting you, without, and so now, and he shared with you that he sees how you're changing. He wants some of that. That is so attractive. That is, the program talks about attraction, not promotion. Well, people in our lives see us change and they start thinking, well, I want what you have, and through compassion and understanding, we can, but it has to come from that place of, I don't know what's right for you, but this is what's working for me. And you can take some action in this way. So you can share with him what actions that you've been taking that have helped you change so much. But I always try to frame it with, look, I don't know what's right for anyone else, but this is what's this cause effect thing. This is what's working for me. And people are typically able to absorb it that way. Not in this, what you should do. People don't like advice.
No, they don't. But, that's more of a scientific way to explain it, I think. And that's something that he could grasp onto. So I like that cause and effect. I'll have to remember that. And what you said something like, I try not to label things good, bad. I do that a lot. And I realized not even that long ago that that's kind of a character defect of mine to, automatically think, and I do this with people, I do this with things, I do this with places, automatically it's good or it's bad, and it's not even true. Like there's a big gray area,
Yeah, there are degrees. There's a spectrum.
So, yeah. So,
yeah, I feel like everything, can evolve. Everything does evolve. So we get to choose once we're conscious, right? Once we're aware.
Right.
And we get to choose whether we're going to evolve or devolve or whatever. That's right. No, that's a big one, especially when you live with someone. I mean, marriage issues are huge, and that's a very, that's not an uncommon situation. So that was a good one.
Okay.
Do you want to go back to the neighbor? It sounds like he might have a little resentment towards him. Is he on your list already?
He's not, but he should be.
What do you think the specific cause, witnessing him yell at your husband? What did that do to you?
I didn't see it. If I had seen it, or if it had been me, I don't know what I would have done. Like I don't know. Like that's pretty traumatic. When he did, after he did it to my husband, we talked like a month. Like this was a month later, and he was like, "Yeah, I still kind of have anxiety when I see him because I don't know if he's going to fly off the handle, And then he seemed to be off work a lot of the summer, so I ended up finding out that he's like a third grade teacher, and I'm like, well, I hope he doesn't talk to his kids like that, but I don't know. And you know what? who knows what was going on in his life? It could have been a really bad day for him. I don't know. I mean, there's no excuse to yell at somebody like that, but I have to believe that he probably had a reason, and, my husband is a pretty nice guy, but he can come off as a really big kind of jerk, and he's not a jerk, but he's just real quiet and like really concise. And I think people sometimes don't feel warm and fuzzy from him. So maybe he was feeling kind of attacked too. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fair. So maybe you're more resentful at your husband for not presenting the information well to the neighbor to provoke the neighbor. I don't know.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, there's a little part of me that says that has that resentment. Yes. That, well, if you would have been a little bit nicer, then maybe we could have avoided all this, right, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And then the neighbor, you're right. There's no reason. Like we're responsible for the way we respond. That's what responsible is. It's the ability to respond. Right. So everybody, there's that saying, it's a spiritual axiom that when we're angry, we're also at fault. Right. So it takes two to tango. So anyway, but it seems like the end result is that you're sort of, there's just more tension and more anxiety, and your home needs to be that place of rest and sanctuary. So
yeah, and that's and I am resentful towards him. Also, I didn't bring this up before because when they moved in and it started to be spring, he started mowing on our grass. So my husband had talked to him a couple times. Hey, you're mowing on our side. And the guy's like, hey, no, I'm not. And he's like, yeah, hey, you are, and he continues to do it, which further ticks my husband off. So I'm angry at the neighbor, like, just stay on your side, buddy. Don't mow our grass. It's that easy. Like this just all very silly to me and stupid, but it's annoying. It's all petty. It's all very petty to me. And I'm annoyed at both of them.
Yeah. It's not, you're not seeing that as he's doing you a favor. Oh, he's mowing your lawn. That's so nice. He's mowing
for us. It's all good. Yeah. Tell him to just do the whole side.
Yeah. Can you keep going? Can you mow to the?
Yeah.
I guess that's perspective.
I would see it as a favor, but I'm a different person. I'm not petty. I'm not.
You're not as territorial as the man.
He's very territorial. I'm very protective over his stuff. And we've had other neighbors who do take over your side if you allow them. And he's very adamant about, he's a new neighbor and he has not taken over our side, For whatever reason, we've lived in 5 houses. And for whatever reason, the neighbor to our right is always a really big dipshit. Our last neighbor was very rude. And we had a fence on the side of our house and it was too close to his camper that he had parked there. So we went to Chicago for a few days, and when we got back, he had taken down our fence. Yeah. A wooden privacy fence. And it wasn't all the way, it was just bordering the side of the house. So it was only 2 panels, which isn't a lot, but he totally took it down and put it up in his backyard. And we talked to him and he's like, yeah, come back and get it. And we ended up never coming back and getting it. We just never got around to it, but it was so crazy. Who does this? So for whatever reason, we seem to always have neighbors that are a little bit extreme and do extreme things. I'm thinking there must be some type of lesson for us. And I don't know. There's got to be a lesson here. What's going on? Why do we always have bad neighbors to the right? Our left neighbors are always awesome. It's our right neighbors. I don't know why, but anyway,
that is trippy. Okay. Looks like you have another resentment I don't know if he was on your list. Okay. We have about 10 minutes, left. So I want to keep moving along, but this is really good. It's interesting. I'm already seeing patterns, right? It's your part being primarily the disassociation or not taking the initiative to, build relationships or share feelings or whatever. But I also see that your emotional security is being threatened and your self-esteem keeps taking a hit. Right. So these are some of the patterns that are already emerging. And I'm already seeing a lot of suppressed anger. Right. And so
did you say repressed anger or depressed anger?
Repressed.
Okay.
Disassociation has a lot to do with how you cope with your feelings. So you feel angry, first you feel hurt or something, and then you go into anger and then disassociate. So that's what it just.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's like patterns. It's like all these patterns are trippy. And once you start putting pen to paper and examining these things, it's amazing what comes out.
Yeah.
And so now
as I was looking at this, it was just so interesting because at the last time I talked to you, I don't know if you realize this, and I listened to the podcast and I couldn't tell from listening to it, but it was a huge revelation of mine to realize that I had been doing that because I had no idea. I really honestly thought that was a strength of mine. Like, oh, I'm not getting involved in that. I'm too good for that. That's not a strength. It's pushing people away. It's not good. It was huge. It was huge for me. So to see all this, and like most of the people who I'm resentful for them because of their time with me. It's just so fascinating. I'm very protective of my time, I guess.
Yeah, protective. Like you value your time, which, I appreciate that, and and this process is about, they call it turning character defects into assets. And I know a lot of people really bristle at that term, character defect. It's, but it's like a human frailty. I don't care what you want to call it. It's just easier to call it a character defect. But, we're human. Nobody's perfect. It's a human condition. It's not an alcoholic thing, but,
absolutely.
Yeah. I did another interview with this doctor who just bristled at the character defect because he felt that it was contributing to shame. But it's like, can we just acknowledge we're not perfect? And if we're going to talk about certain character traits, some are negative. So do we want to call them negative character traits? Like, should you feel that? I mean, there is a place for shame.
Different words. I mean,
come on, man. It's like, are we talking about semantics here? Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to digress.
You know what? I like the term character defect. I don't know why. And I never heard that before. I like that. Turn your character defects into assets. I love that. And I wonder what would happen if we started using these terms with children, like character defects, like to talk about this stuff, everyone has their things. It's not just one, you know what I mean? Like everyone has things.
Yeah. And the point is that we are still lovable.
Mm-hmm.
We can have character defects and still be lovable, because what we're talking about is that we are still human. We all are prideful. We all get angry. We all get jealous. We all are lazy. And we're still lovable. It doesn't we're all redeemable.
And we are so lovable.
We are so lovable.
And able to love too. Even with our character defects, we can love and we're lovable. And if we know that in our heart, I think you're fine. You're going to be fine. If you know that in your heart, if you actually believe it. You have to believe it though.
Yeah.
The hard part.
Well, but it's an acknowledgement of reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's reality. It's just,
and it is reality.
Objective. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is. Nobody is perfect. Nobody.
And, most people, I mean, listen, I don't know about truths or, absolute truths, but I would say that everybody is redeemable. Everybody can transform if they want to. Some people choose not to because they can't for whatever reason. And I think there is, evil in the world or whatever, but, people are redeemable. So
for sure. They have to want it though.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing. So I see that with some people in my life who have these behaviors, and people who are like, well, if she just had this and this, and I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. She needs to want it herself. If she doesn't want it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Recovery isn't for people who want it. It's not for people who need it. It's for people who want it.
Yeah. And it's hard. You have to want it.
Yeah. You have
for
to
sure. Yeah,
that's the whole.
I've seen a lot of people like in rehab who go through all this, but then they relapse because it's like they weren't really invested. They didn't care. You have to want it.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's like they don't care. It's I feel like it's there's all this. There's something inside us that is resisting. And typically resistance comes out of shame. right? Like that deep-rooted shame.
Mm-hmm.
And all these emotions are on a spectrum. Like, I think there is a proper use for shame, but out of balance, then it becomes destructive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It creates that resistance to us being able to see. It's the absence of acknowledging that we are lovable despite our character defects, right? And it's that shame that prevents us from being able to get honest and do the work, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is kind of trippy. But anyway, I think we need to stop here. I have to jump on another call, actually.
Okay.
But great work. I am so excited for you. You're making huge progress, and I can tell that like all these awarenesses are having a huge impact on you. So I'm excited.
I think so too. It's really cool to see it. Like, yeah, like you said earlier, this is a step where it's like all clicks. So this has been fabulous. My only regret is like putting it off for as long as I did, but that's okay. Yeah. We're doing it now. And I hope that you said that you had a super busy morning. So I hope that you have a nice long holiday weekend. Hopefully you get a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And I will jump onto email sometime today, and I'll go ahead and schedule the second call.
That's great. And we're doing that. I don't know if you saw it or if you're able to join, but we do have a women's meeting online that starts this Saturday. So we'll do it every Saturday. So if you can't make this one, maybe you can make another one.
Okay. Is it going to be, it's a Zoom meeting then, right?
Yep. And I'll post links in the women's group. So
okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I will check that out. I would love to join you guys tomorrow. So I will, I'll try to join in. That would be awesome. That would be such a great start to the weekend. Actually, that would be fabulous. So hopefully. All right. Thank you, Arlina.
Have a wonderful day, hon. You too.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks so much.
Soon.
All right. Love you, hon. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
One last thing before you go, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. And if you'd like to make a donation to the podcast and help me keep the lights on, you can do so by visiting ODAATchat.com. There's a donation button or membership button on the right-hand side. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.